President Emerson Mnangagwa's administration is unbelievable. I was at a loss for words after reading a post on X, formerly Twitter, by Ndavaningi Nick Mangana, the Permanent Secretary for the Information Ministry. He went out of his way trying to convince the nation to celebrate the rehabilitation of Sam Nujoma Street, formerly 2nd Street, in the capital Harare. Really, Nick, is the nation now expected to celebrate the rehabilitation of a road? What more, a road that was not even constructed by the Mnangagwa regime, but by the colonial administration decades ago. Then, the same day, there was Mashonaland East Provincial Affairs and Devolution Minister Apollonia Munzerengui, who told a gathering of villagers that Mnangagwa was worthy of praise as he had put in place measures to ensure that no one in the country dies of hunger. Of course, this according to Mangana's statement was intended to make Zimbabweans hail Mnangagwa as a phenomenal leader. Wow, can it get any worse? Indeed, it can. Again, on that day, youth in Mashonaland West were being urged by ZANU-PF spokesperson Chris Mutsvangwa to praise Mnangagwa for giving them some so-called income-generating projects. Welcome to the circus called Zimbabwe. As to be expected, those in attendance at these gatherings did not disappoint their leaders as they most certainly cheered their visionary president. I have come to understand, though, after receiving numerous communication from people from various corners of Zimbabwe, especially in rural areas, that the cheering, dancing and ululating is never genuine. It is literally a matter of life and death. These people do not attend these events by choice. They are forced or else. Besides, due to unbearable poverty and hunger, they cannot afford not to attend since that is where they receive the life-saving food aid. Anyone who does not display the required enthusiasm may be denied such donations after being construed an enemy or opposition element. So, why do these people need to be forced to celebrate this undeniable mediocrity? The answer is simple. Zimbabweans are not fools. We know what we deserve as our God-given inalienable right. We deserve a better life. How many Zimbabweans are not aware that our country is richly endowed with some of the world's most precious minerals? 60 of them, to be exact. We know very well that our country should not be poor at all. We, the 15 million of us should be enjoying the same high standards of life as those in highly developed nations as the United Arab Emirates. In fact, we should be better off since most of these countries have far fewer natural resources, some have none at all. Yet, here in Zimbabwe, with all our wealth, millions are languishing in poverty where we need to celebrate being given food aid. Our government is not able to construct any significant new roads and we are forced to cheer the rehabilitation of a colonial-era streets in Harare. Our youth are left with no hope of any decent livelihoods on account of an economy lying in the intensive care unit such that they are left with no choice but to dance for some laughable income-generating projects. These projects cannot even afford them a car, let alone a house, of their own as their lives are reduced to a hand-to-mouth existence. However, each day, we read of the looting of our national resources by those in power or aligned to them. Why should we celebrate that no one is dying of hunger when we know that this country's wealth is enough to make us all afford the best meals this planet has to offer? Surely, if the Mnangagwa regime can afford to dole out 90 million United States dollars on goats that are never delivered, why can our impoverished rural folk not receive at least 500 United States dollars each every month as a social grant? If government can easily part with $7.6 million on non-flushable toilets whose cost was inflated to $3 800 a unit instead of $300, what stops it from buying essential medications for all our public healthcare facilities? If the Mnangagwa administration can give its cronies, such as Wicknell Chavayo and partners, $100 million for electoral material whose cost was inflated by over 235%, why can it not pay civil servants living wages and our parents reasonable pensions? Clearly, the money is there. In fact, as Zimbabwe prepares to host the SADC Heads of State Summit next month, the Mnangagwa regime has been feverishly fixing roads, constructing new buildings and much more infrastructural development. Most ordinary Zimbabweans cannot help wondering where the money suddenly came from, considering that there has hardly been any significant development in the country over the past 2 decades. The money has always been there in Zimbabwe, but is enjoyed only by a handful at the expense of the nation. The government did not mind at all as ordinary citizens endured unimaginable suffering and poverty as long as those in power lived lavishly. However, now that there are visitors coming to the country in August, suddenly the money is there for some window-dressing cosmetic developments. As a matter of fact, knowing how this regime operates, I shudder to imagine how much has actually been spent on shady tenders for these infrastructural developments, with costs likely inflated hundreds of times. I hope all these tenders will be thoroughly investigated and any unscrupulous acts exposed. Be that as it may, in a nutshell, the people of Zimbabwe know that the country has enough resources for everyone to enjoy a relatively comfortable life. Yet, here we are, living in abject poverty, and expected to celebrate mediocrity. Let this message be abundantly and unambiguously clear to the Mnangagwa regime. We are not second-class citizens. We will not accept crumbs from the table of the ruling elite and its cronies. We deserve the best in our motherland.